Before we get into today's edition of Just the Truth, let me tell you about the latest special from Michael and Dale at MyPillow. The standard MyPillow, normally $49.98 for a limited time only, just $14.88 with promo code Joey. Go to MyPillow.com, click on the radio listener specials, and see all the specials. There's a limited quantity of just 10 at this special price. That's $14.88 with promo code Joey. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studio. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. The excitement is building as we have the final days of the Joe Biden administration. Delivering his final address to the nation, Biden, speaking from the Oval Office last night, took the sole credit for the Israel-Hamas deal while warning the country of the oligarchy that he believes is threatening our democracy. Why is Hamas suddenly agreeing to a ceasefire? Well, according to IDF Reserve Brigadier General Amir Avivi, this deal has been on the table since May of last year, but Hamas rejected it outright back then because there wasn't enough pressure on Hamas to accept the terms, and the Biden administration had blocked some of the more stronger terms Israel had wanted. We have the details of what was agreed to. U.S. Attorney General nominee Pam Bondi clashed with senior Democrat senators during her confirmation hearing to lead the Department of Justice yesterday. We have the latest details on the Senate confirmation hearings as several were going on at the same time. In a Washington Post interview, First Lady Jill Biden revealed what she and President-elect Donald Trump talked about at the reopening ceremonies of the Notre Dame last month. Remember the photo of the two of them that went viral? We now know what they said. And she shared her feelings about Nancy Pelosi and others given credit for pushing her husband, the president, out of the campaign last year. You're going to want to hear what Dr. Jill is saying in her final days as the First Lady.
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson bill, but you know they don't allow you to put names on bills. But I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
President Joe Biden delivered his farewell address from the Oval Office last night, reflecting on his tenure, touting his administration's accomplishments, according to Joe, and warning of emerging challenges to American democracy. His speech included notable themes such as unity, democratic values, and the role of wealth in politics. Biden proudly announced a ceasefire agreement and hostage release deal between Israel-Hamas that was announced yesterday, which he credited his administration's 8 months of negotiation. He took sole credit for it.
My fellow Americans, I'm speaking to you tonight from the Oval Office. Before I begin, let me speak to important news from earlier today. After 8 months of nonstop negotiation, my administration, a ceasefire and a hostage deal has been reached by Israel and Hamas, the elements of which I laid out in great detail in May of this year. This plan was developed and negotiated by my team and will be largely implemented by the incoming administration. That's why I told my team to keep the incoming administration fully informed, because that's how it should be, working together as Americans.
Biden emphasized the importance of informing President-elect Trump's team to ensure a smooth transition, showcasing his commitment to bipartisanship, he said. Yep, I'm sure he instructed his team to keep Trump informed. You believe that? I'm happy it appears that the hostages may be coming home, and I say maybe because it's not done. I think it will happen, but you never know what Hamas might do. But if Biden wants to take credit, let him do it. That's fine. But we all know why Hamas suddenly is ready to turn over the hostages and lay down their weapons, don't we? When Donald Trump said last week that Hamas, if they did not agree to a ceasefire and release the hostages, that all hell would break loose, Hamas knows that Trump means it. Fox News chief foreign correspondent Trey Yingst provided details on the agreement between Israel and Hamas that will implement a 42-day pause in fighting and provide the release of 33 hostages initially, including some who are believed to be dead.
Yeah, Harris, this is breaking news right now. According to a source familiar with the ongoing talks, a ceasefire deal has been reached between Israel and Hamas. I do want to just read to you what this source just sent. Quote, Gaza ceasefire and hostage release deal reached following the Qataris meeting with Hamas negotiators for a final push following last-minute additions by the group. There were some reports that indicated Hamas officials were trying to push the Israelis to change their position about a key corridor that sits along the Gaza-Egypt border called the Philadelphia Corridor. Now, I am told that the Qatari prime minister himself was in the negotiating room and pushed these Hamas officials to accept the agreement on the table. What we are looking at here that will be signed tonight, a ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas that will implement a pause in fighting between the two sides for 42 days. This is a 6-week agreement that will ultimately see 33 hostages released from Hamas captivity in Gaza. We are told by a number of sources some of those hostages were killed and their bodies will be returned to Israel, but at least 23 of them are believed to be alive. This is critical information for the Israelis. They have been negotiating over the past several weeks, trying to get together the details of such an agreement. Now, they will have to give up a number of Palestinian prisoners in exchange for these hostages that are being held inside Gaza. In a briefing earlier this week, I was told by a senior Israeli government official that hundreds of Palestinian prisoners will be released as part of this agreement that will ultimately be implemented in 3 separate phases. We're also told that if phase 1 moves forward as planned, that by day 16 of the ceasefire agreement, intense discussions about phase 2 will start, at which point they will move forward with implementing phase 2 later on. And then ultimately, if everything goes as planned, Israeli forces would withdraw from the Gaza Strip. All of the hostages and the bodies being held by Hamas would be released. And you would have an end to this more than 15-month conflict that erupted here in the Middle East on October 7th.
And again, we can only hope, the world can only hope, that this is truly a ceasefire, that it will hold, and that it will lead to the release of all of the hostages as we move forward with it. As President Biden continued his farewell address last night, he cited a number of what he believes to be accomplishments. He talked about the CHIPS Act, tax reforms, his efforts to tackle climate change as a hallmark of his presidency. Now, I'm not sure I would want to talk about climate change being a hallmark of my presidency, as that has been a complete disaster. But I guess Joe Biden is still proud of it. Biden described the Statue of Liberty as a metaphor for America's enduring values and the ongoing march towards justice and equality. He spoke of his pride of how Americans responded to the COVID recovery efforts.
It's been the honor of my life to see the resilience of essential workers getting us through a once-in-a-century pandemic, the heroism of service members and first responders keeping us safe, the determination of advocates standing up for our rights and our freedoms instead of losing their jobs to an economic crisis that we inherited. Millions of Americans now have the dignity of work. Millions of entrepreneurs and companies creating new businesses and industries, hiring American workers, using American products. Together, we've launched a new era of American possibilities. One of the greatest modernizations of infrastructure in our entire history, from new roads, bridges, clean water, affordable high-speed internet for every American.
You know, he talks about the affordable high-speed internet. Evidently, someone hasn't told him that the billions of dollars that were spent as part of the infrastructure bill, but to date, according to various reports, not a single person has been provided internet service yet. He voiced concerns about the concentration of power among the ultra-wealthy, warning that this oligarchy poses a threat to democracy.
I have no doubt that America is in a position to continue to succeed. That's why my farewell address tonight, I want to warn the country of some things that give me great concern. This is a dangerous and that's a dangerous concentration of power in the hands of a very few ultra-wealthy people. The dangerous consequences if their abuse of power is left unchecked. Today, An oligarchy is taking shape in America of extreme wealth, power, and influence that literally threatens our entire democracy, our basic rights and freedoms, and a fair shot for everyone to get ahead. We see the consequences all across America, and we've seen it before. More than a century ago, but the American people stood up to the robber barons back then and busted the trusts. They didn't punish the wealthy. Just made the wealthy play by the rules everybody else had to. Workers want rights to earn their fair share. You know, they were dealt into the deal, and it helped put us on a path to building the largest middle class, the most prosperous century any nation in the world has ever seen. We've got to do that again. The last 4 years, that is exactly what we've done. People should be able to make as much as they can, but play by the same rules, pay their fair share of taxes.
An oligarchy, really? As the nation, of course, prepares for the next administration, Biden's legacy is going to be shaped by a number of different things, and only history will tell how we remember him. A Fox News poll released yesterday says that Trump is the most popular he's ever been. The poll found that 52% of voters approve of Trump's handling of the transition, while 46% disapprove, which is a reversal from 2017 when just 37% approved and 54% disapproved. Your comments are welcome on the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. There's a lot of talk about making America great again, and it begins with making America healthy again. Dr. Ashley Lucas and her team at PhD Weight Loss are at the forefront to educate and guide you to be your best self. The millions being spent in propping up Big Pharma are astounding, only to create long-term dependency and harmful side effects. Let's take a natural approach that isn't connected to a pharmaceutical company's bottom line. The coaches at PhD Weight Loss will show you how. The entire program is centered around science and nutrition, a proven roadmap that has helped over 8,000 clients lose over 331,000 pounds. You'll learn what to eat and when, how to quiet cravings, and finally get rid of that belly fat. Plus, you'll never take a medication. How many pounds would you like to lose in 2025? Do it the natural way with PhD Weight Loss, here to lead the charge to make America healthy again. Call PhD Weight Loss and schedule your consultation. 864-644-1900. That's 864-644-1900, or go to myphdweightloss.com. The breaking news yesterday wasn't that of Joe Biden's farewell address, although he tried to make it that, but it was of the Middle East news, where a ceasefire agreement between Israel and Hamas is set to take effect on January the 19th, just one day before President-elect Donald Trump takes office on Monday the 20th. The deal comes after 15 months of conflict and signals a potential turning point in the region. We will see. Now, here's the critical context. According to IDF Reserve Brigadier General Amir Avivi, this deal has been on the table since May of last year. But Hamas rejected it outright back then, wanted no part of it. Why? According to the general, he says that it was because there wasn't enough pressure on Hamas to accept the terms, that Israel wanted to halt some humanitarian aid, like gasoline, to apply leverage, but they were reportedly blocked by the Biden administration. So Israel was trying to be strong, trying to apply pressure to their enemy, and Joe Biden's administration stopped them. No wonder Hamas has continued their terror, because they didn't believe that Joe Biden would do anything. So what's changed? We know what's changed, don't we? And the general agrees. He said there's two major factors. First, Israel's military victories against Hezbollah and the weakening of Syria and Iran shifted the power back to Israel. Second, of course, and probably most importantly, President Trump's direct threat. Trump made it very clear to Hamas that if hostages weren't released by his inauguration, all hell would break out. That's a direct quote. All hell would break out. And it's that unmistakable warning, according to General Avivi, that finally brought Hamas to the table, because they believe Donald Trump will do what he threatened to do. Even the Biden White House is now recognizing the role of Trump's incoming team. Joe Biden may not recognize it fully. Joe Biden sat there at his desk last night, brimming with pride, because he believes that he had a part of it. He believes that his team, as he called them, is responsible for bringing this to the table. National Security Communications Advisor John Kirby, though, acknowledged that President-elect Trump's Middle East Special Envoy, Steve Witkoff, has played a key role in brokering the agreement. And you know, that's who Trump said was going back over there. Remember last week when Trump made the claim that all hell would break loose? Remember, he brought Steve Witkoff up to the podium, kind of put him on the spot. And Mr. Witkoff said that he was literally heading back to Israel that night to continue the negotiations. Now, while the ceasefire is a step in the right direction, General Avivi and others warn that there's still uncertainty. He says that Hamas could try to trick Israel or manipulate the terms of the deal. That wouldn't surprise me. So this may not be the end of the story. It's just the beginning of a very fragile process that we'll all need to watch closely. I do believe that they are afraid of Donald Trump. So the bottom line here is the deal didn't happen in a vacuum. It took strength. It took decisive leadership. It took a willingness to call out bad actors, and that's the kind of leadership we're going to see more of come January the 20th, next Monday, when I'm going to be sitting there in our nation's capital watching Donald J. Trump place his hand on the Bible and swear to the oath to our country and to our God. A Fox News opinion piece was published yesterday. Headline, hostage deal shows Hamas took Trump's hell to pay threat seriously. It reads like this. Incoming President Donald Trump has repeatedly issued stern warnings to Hamas in the past few weeks, saying that there would be hell to pay if Israeli hostages are not released by the time he returns to office on January the 20th. Wednesday's announcement that an agreement between Israel and Hamas was near, providing for a temporary ceasefire and the release of 33 Israeli hostages, made clear that the Trump factor played a pivotal role in pushing this deal forward. The opinion piece goes on to say these 33 Israeli hostages to be freed under the deal, along with 65 others still held by Hamas in Gaza in subhuman conditions for the past 466 days, were snatched from their homes and their beds on a Saturday morning of the Jewish holiday of Simchat on October the 7th, 2023. Ever since that day, their names and faces have become one with the Israeli collective. Their stories have become our own. Israelis are immensely grateful to President-elect Trump for his commitment and tenacity, as well as to the thousands of brave Israeli men and women of the IDF who have risked life and limb to resurrect Israel from the horrible failure of that fateful day. They go on to write, the hostages' return is both painful and joyous for Israelis traumatized by the war. Reuniting those innocent people with their families brings tears of joy to our eyes, knowing well the kind of torment, suffering, torture, and abuse they suffer at the hands of Hamas's merciless and cruel captors. Yet it is also a harsh reminder of the magnitude of Israel's failure and of the need to guarantee that such an event never happens again. He writes, Trump's hell to pay was a clear message not just to Hamas, but to all rogue actors of the Middle East. It was a manifestation of the incoming administration's clear moral vision and ability to tell right from wrong, a vision that has a chance to herald a new episode in the future of this tumultuous and fickle region. A clear line stretches between this statement and January 2020, when at the direction of then President Trump, the U.S. military took out Qasem Soleimani, commander of the Iranian Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps' Quds Force. Soleimani was the architect of evil, responsible for the Islamic regime's Ring of Fire doctrine surrounding Israel with hostile forces, including Hamas in Gaza and Hezbollah in Lebanon, as well as supporting other nefarious terrorist forces such as the Houthis in Yemen. The assassination of Soleimani sent shockwaves through the region and the ranks of the Islamic Republic's leadership, which promised revenge against Trump himself and senior officials in his administration. In launching the barbaric and ferocious October 7th attack against Israel, Hamas's leader, al-Sinwar, was hoping to see all elements of this ring of fire converge and attack Israel in a desire to change the Middle East forever. 466 days into the war, it is clear that the Middle East has changed forever, but in the opposite direction. Yet on the horizon, a new future looms, one of hell to pay for the Middle East's rogue actors, enveloped by hope for peace through strength. Trump 2.0 confirmation hearings continued yesterday, with U.S. Attorney General nominee Pam Bondi clashing with a senior Democrat senator during her confirmation hearing to lead the Department of Justice. You know, I think people are going to learn real quick that Pam Bondi is no pushover. Yes, she's a pretty lady with her bright blonde hair, but she's no pushover. She showed that yesterday to Senator Richard Blumenthal when she was forced to defend President-elect Trump's pick to lead the FBI, Kash Patel, when Senator Blumenthal pressed her on his past comments. Here's the exchange.
An individual who says that he is going to, quote, come after, end quote, people he alleges, quote, help Joe Biden rig the presidential elections, that he has a list of people who are part of this deep state who should be prosecuted, that he's going to close down the FBI building on his first day in office. Is that a person who appropriately should be the FBI director? Aren't those comments inappropriate? Shouldn't you disavow them and ask him to recant them?
Senator, I am not familiar with all those comments. I have not discussed those comments with Mr. Patel. What I do know
well,
is
I'm
Mr.
asking
Patel,
you for your view.
Excuse me. What I do know is Mr. Patel was a career prosecutor. He was a career public defender, defending people. And he also has great experience within the intelligence community. What I can sit here and tell you is Mr. Patel, if he works with running the FBI, if he is confirmed, and if I am confirmed, he will follow the law if I am the Attorney General of the United States of America, and I don't believe he would do anything otherwise.
Well, let me just submit that the response that I would have hoped to hear from you is that those comments are inappropriate and that you will ask him to disavow or recant them when he comes before this committee, because they are indeed chilling to fair enforcement and the rule of law.
I'm sure Ms. Bondi is upset that she disappointed Senator Blumenthal. This came after Senator Sheldon Whitehouse similarly pressed Bondi on what Democrats have called Patel's enemies list. Earlier in the hearing, though, Senator Amy Klobuchar asked Ms. Bondi if she would support local prosecutors. Here's the response.
Do you agree that it should be a priority to support U.S. attorneys, frontline prosecutors, and case agents who work hard every single day on our streets?
Senator, I think that is one of the most important things in our country right now. And there are so many good men and women within the Justice Department throughout our country, as well as all the law enforcement agencies. Yes, they work very hard and they will be supported.
In other questioning today, the top Democrat on the Senate Judiciary Committee, Senator Dick Durbin of Illinois, grilled Ms. Bondi over whether she had accepted the legitimacy of the 2020 election results and whether she would move to pardon individuals convicted of violence in the January 6th riot. In response, Ms. Bondi stated that Joe Biden, of course, is president of the United States, that he had been duly sworn in, and praised the peaceful transition of power. She said President Trump left office and was overwhelmingly reelected in 2024. A group of more than 60 former Democrat and Republican attorneys general have sent a letter to Senate leaders urging confirmation of Pam Bondi to head the Department of Justice. Florida's Republican Senator Marco Rubio sailed through his confirmation hearing yesterday with the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, all but assuring that he will assume the role as the top diplomat under the new Trump administration. Rubio's confirmation hearing, a process which is usually contentious, like we saw with Ms. Bondi and like we've have seen this week with Pete Hegseth. But, you know, Marco Rubio is sort of a member of the club, a member of the Senate. His hearing was full of pleasantries with both Democrats and Republican lawmakers applauding his work as a United States Senator and his in-depth knowledge of complex issues across the globe that suit him well to serve as Secretary of State. Marco Rubio will not have a problem. He will probably be the easiest to confirm of any of Donald Trump's nominees. Moving down the road to Georgia, there's a big story that you're not going to see highlighted on the liberal networks. Our friend Stacey Abrams, and I say that tongue-in-cheek, is back in the news again. Abrams' voting advocacy groups, the New Georgia Project and its fundraising arm, the New Georgia Project Action Fund, have been hit with what is being called the largest ethics fine in Georgia history. And maybe not just Georgia. This might be the biggest fine ever imposed by any state ethics commission in the country for election and campaign finance violations. So here's what happened. These groups admitted to failing to disclose a staggering $4.2 million in contributions and $3.2 million in expenditures during Abrams' failed 2018 gubernatorial campaign. That's right. Millions of dollars unaccounted for in a blatant violation of Georgia's campaign finance laws. The fines come after the Georgia Ethics Commission uncovered 16 separate violations, including failing to register as a political committee, which is a very basic thing, and hiding millions in political contributions. Now, Ms. Abrams is probably going to get slapped on the wrist as far as there's not any threat of jail time, I don't think. I mean, there's going to be a hefty fine involved here, but I'm not sure she cares. But this, if this were a Republican, if this were someone dealing with had something to do with the Trump campaign, this would have been all over the network news yesterday, because this really is bad. You've got a lady who's considered one of the darlings of the Democrat Party, who the Democrats believe can do no wrong, who was out on the campaign trail supporting Joe Biden and then Kamala Harris. And she did not even register her campaign as a political committee. How do you do that? And she's hidden millions in political contributions. I mean, $4.2 million in contributions and $3.2 million in expenditures. Those aren't small dollars. You can't tell me that that was just an oversight. And let's not forget, Stacey Abrams founded the New Georgia Project in 2013. And while she stepped down in 2017, the group continued its activities under the leadership of, guess who, drum roll, none other than the Senator Raphael Warnock. Now think about that for a minute. Raphael Warnock, who is a current U.S. Senator, was this group's CEO from 2017 to 2019. Warnock is now claiming, of course, he wasn't aware of the violations. Really? Millions of dollars mismanaged? He's the CEO of this group, and he's not aware? That in itself shows you how incompetent he is. That in itself should disqualify him from serving in the U.S. Senate. It's a little hard to believe, isn't it? Wow. Abrams has a history, of course, of refusing to accept election results, but it's okay for her. We can question what happened in 2020 and literally go to jail for it, or have your business ruined, or being or have your social media accounts canceled. But when you're the darling of the Democrat Party, like Stacey Abrams, and she lost in 2018 to Governor Brian Kemp, refused to concede, losing by 60,000 votes, yet She went on a national tour claiming that she won. The irony is that while she was questioning election integrity, her own organization was breaking campaign finance laws. But it's okay. It's Stacey Abrams. She can do it. She can do it and still go on The View and get praise. Wonder where the ladies on The View stand on this. Trump probably had something to do with this, too. They'll probably blame this on Trump. The Ethics Commission called the case the most significant instance of an organization illegally influencing statewide elections in Georgia that we have ever discovered. That's a big deal, folks. And while Abrams' group says that they're glad to put this matter behind them, let's look at this. Let's be clear. This sends a strong message that no one is above the law. There needs to be some harsh penalties involved. Maybe her prosecutor friend down there, Fani Willis, maybe she should have been investigating Stacey Abrams rather than Donald Trump. Here's the bottom line. Stacey Abrams has built a brand as a champion for voting rights. But this massive fine tells a very, very different story about the tactics that her groups use to influence elections. And it kind of paints a picture of people like Stacey Abrams and Fani Willis and Black Lives Matter, who have had millions and millions of dollars buying private homes, how they abuse the money that they raise, the hard-earned money from some of their supporters. A lot of people who contributed to Stacey Abrams probably couldn't afford it, but they did so anyway. But yet, Stacey Abrams was living the lifestyle like she would have never imagined. So were others in her campaign structure. But it's okay. It's okay for Stacey to do it. Not any outrage coming from the liberals. Not any outrage coming from the networks, because she's the darling of the Democrat Party. Won't surprise me if she runs for governor again. And some of those idiots will give her money again. Wait and see. Your comments are welcome on the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Speaking of the Furman Ford text line, it's never been more important to support locally run businesses owned by people who actually live here in the upstate. Let me take a minute to talk with you about our friends at Furman Ford. If you're looking for a new vehicle, maybe a great pre-owned vehicle, one you could trust, or maybe you're looking to order that special vehicle. Either way, if you want a new one, a brand new one, or a pre-owned that you can trust, the folks at Furman Ford, they're there to help you. Their name is on the sign because their name is on the line, because every single transaction is important to them. Jim Furman, Matthew Furman. They do business the right way. When you stop by, when you give them a call, or maybe when you just send them a quick email, you're always going to have access to a member of the Furman Ford family. And by the way, they also offer great service, and you're not going to have to wait weeks and weeks to get it done. And you do not have had to purchase your vehicle at Furman Ford. Doesn't even have to be a Ford. They service all makes and models. Visit my friends at Furman Ford online at furmanford.com, furmanford.com. On the text line, Faye writes, Joey, I've tried to listen to Biden tonight, but he made me sick and mad, so I've had to turn the sound off. Bet you're listening for us. You're a good man. Come on January 20th. Yeah, Faye, I always listen, so you don't have to. So I got you covered. Hope I covered everything for you in today's show. Texter, this is Dom from Illinois, says, hey, Joey, listening to the rep from the Bar and Tavern Association, I have a couple of issues. Now, he's referencing a conversation I had yesterday with Chris Smith, who's the executive director of the South Carolina Bar and Tavern Association. Of course, they are lobbying for some changes in South Carolina's liability laws that will make it more affordable for bars and taverns and restaurants that serve alcoholic beverages to be able to get liability insurance. It's really been a problem in my home state of South Carolina because we've had a lot of businesses go out of business because they can't afford the insurance. So Dom says, your guest stated as an example, when someone goes to bar 1 and has 5 beers, then goes to bar 2 and has 3 beers, and then goes to bar 3 for 1 or 2 beers, he stated that bar number 1 should be more liable because the person had more beers there. However, Dom says, when this person started drinking in bar 1, she was not intoxicated. But by the time she walks into the bar 3, they've had 7 beers, which means they were probably drunk and were still served. Bar 3 should be more liable than bar 1. Also, who determines what intoxicated looks like? Your rep stated that they wanted to change the law from illegally intoxicated to visibly intoxicated. Who makes that call? I think we should definitely make it easier to keep businesses open, but these examples don't pass the smell test. Thanks for allowing me a voice, Joey. Be well, Dom. You make some good points there, Dom. And in fact, I think I'm going to forward your message on to Chris Smith and the South Carolina Bar and Tavern Association and see what his response is. I'll get back to you. Texter Tony says, Joey, let's just get this out there. Massey is absolutely right about Johnson. When you do closed doors meetings and with Democrats and pass all their spending bills, you're not conservative, period, all caps. Speaker Johnson is part of the problem with spending. Now, this, of course, part of the story that I talked about this week as well with Thomas Massey being taken off of the Rules Committee. He said it wasn't as punishment for his no vote on Speaker Johnson, that he had told the Speaker he was happy to step aside. But I'm sure he felt that he didn't have a choice. We'll see. First Lady Jill Biden and President-elect Trump surprised observers back in December after appearing kind of chummy at the reopening of the Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris. Remember that photo that went viral with Trump and the First Lady? There was a chair in between them because evidently the French First Lady, Brigitte Macron, had been sitting in between the two and got up to leave during part of the ceremony. And you had this photo that was snapped of Jill Biden and Donald Trump smiling and talking to one another. So everybody's been wanting to know, well, what were they talking about? What was this nice little exchange there? Jill Biden revealed in an interview with the Washington Post that she had poked some fun at Donald Trump and her husband. Trump had said, according to the First Lady, I had a good meeting with your husband in the Oval Office. Trump, of course, had met with President Biden at the White House following his win in November over Vice President Kamala Harris. It was part of the tradition when the president-elect meets with the sitting president. The meeting was reported as being cordial, as the two men were photographed smiling and laughing together. Jill Biden replied to Trump, yes, because you're both talkers. And they kind of laughed about that. The next day, Trump posted a photo on social media of his interaction with the First Lady. It was on an advertisement for his line of $199 perfumes and colognes with the tagline that read, a fragrance your enemies can't resist. Now, only Donald Trump would take advantage of something like that. He has a light moment with the First Lady and turns it into an ad for one of his products. That's why the left hates him so. The Post reporter, Kara Voigt, asked the First Lady why she even spoke with the man who didn't give her husband the same courtesy of inviting him to the White House when Biden beat him or was declared the winner in 2020, and what of her husband previously calling Trump a threat to democracy. She replied, Joe and I respect our institutions, our traditions, and it's very important to me that they continue, and what would be in the point of nastiness. In the same Washington Post interview, First Lady Jill Biden reflected on her relationships with others. She revealed that she was disappointed in former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, who played a big role, according to Democrat insiders, in Joe Biden dropping out of the race last year. The First Lady told the Washington Post, it's been on my mind a lot lately. We were friends for 50 years. It was disappointing. Pelosi, of course, joined co-host of The Morning Joe back in July of last year after the president's horrific debate performance. She said at the time, it's up to the president to decide if he's going to run, despite Biden repeatedly telling everyone that he wanted to remain in the race. the First Lady said, let's just say I was disappointed with how it all unfolded. Pelosi was seen as a major force behind the Democrat pressure campaign to get Joe Biden out of the race, to drop out, to make way for Vice President Kamala Harris. Amid the speculation that Biden would drop out following the June debate, despite him saying that he wouldn't, the Associated Press reported that leaders within the Democrat Party, like former President Obama, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, and, of course, Nancy Pelosi, were working behind the scenes to encourage Biden to drop out due to concerns that he could not beat Donald Trump. Jill Biden told the Washington Post that she was confident her husband could have served another 4 years. Now, you're stretching it a bit there, Madam First Lady. She said, today I think he has a full schedule. He started early with interviews and briefings, and it just keeps going. Jill Biden also spoke to Washington Post about the president's decision to pardon his son, Hunter. She said, Joe really wrestled with that decision. He started at the point where he said he wasn't going to pardon Hunter, but then I think things changed. Circumstances changed, and it became quite apparent and obvious that the Republicans weren't going to stop. Now, what did the Republicans have to do with the fact that Hunter Biden was found guilty, was sentenced, or was about to be sentenced by a judge? What do the Republicans have to do with that? The prosecutor, even this week, has said that Hunter Biden broke the law and should have gone to jail. But we all knew Joe Biden was going to do that. We can talk about it, speculate about it. I don't know that there was ever an instance. Well, maybe. I don't know. Maybe, Joe Biden talked about how he did this as a father. Wonder if things had changed. If he had stayed in the race and he had won, would he have put his son out to dry then to save his political career? Who knows?
That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined my mailing list yet, visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails and the most up-to-date news. Also, join me on my YouTube channel. Be sure and like, comment, and subscribe. Just search for Joey Hudson. As always, thanks for spending a few minutes of your day with me. Do me a favor and forward this episode to a few friends. Just click on the share button and send to your contacts. We need to build an army of conservatives to win our country back, and we can do that by continuing to share the truth with our friends and family. Keep those comments coming via the Furman Ford text line 864-477-JOEY. Email to joey@joeyhudson.com, and I love your messages on the MyPillow message line. Again, that's 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Be sure and take advantage of the MyPillow special, just $14.88 on the standard MyPillows when you use promo code Joey. Order online at mypillow.com or call 800-893-4053. We're back again tomorrow and hope you'll plan to join us. Until then, remember, God's got this. He's still in control.